Rolling. Okay. Welcome to Plant-Based Eating 101. Thank you for the introduction, Mel. I am also happy to be talking about this topic today. It is a hot topic. I get asked about plant-based eating all the time in my practice. I am a holistic nutritionist. For everyone coming in, again, I am based in Oakland, California, but I work with clients all over the Bay, all over the country. And I specialize in nutrition for mental health and wellness, and also in working with people who have a history of disordered eating and supporting them through chronic health conditions. So I take a non-diet approach to nutrition and wellness. And by the end of this presentation, you'll have a better understanding of what I mean by non-diet. So before we begin though, just so we all can settle in, I thought we could take a couple deep breaths together and just kind of ground into this moment and ground into the space. So I know everyone is transitioning from work to relaxation time, learning space. So if it feels comfortable to close your eyes, you can go ahead and close them. If not, just settle your gaze on a spot in the room around you. We're going to take one deep breath in through the nose, and when you exhale, you can release with a big exhale through the mouth. So in through the nose, just release, release the tension, shake it out. One more time, in through the nose and out. Just shake out your shoulders. I'm gonna do one more, we'll do one more. Okay, in and out. All right. Okay, welcome. We are here, plant-based eating. So thank you for being here with me today. We are going to be talking about what plant-based eating means, how we define plant-based eating. We're going to talk about some health considerations in adapting to a plant-based or plant-forward eating style. And we're also going to be busting some of those plant-based myths that Mel mentioned. And also, we're just going to talk about how to eat more plants. So if your goal is just to incorporate more plants, how do we do that? What are some strategies? I'm going to then pop off presentation mode and show you a quick food demo behind me in my kitchen here in Oakland. And then we're going to have time for Q&A at the end of this talk. So if you have questions, please ask them. But throughout the presentation, just for the sake of time, I ask that you just write your questions in the chat. And if I don't get to them at that moment, I will definitely get to them at the end of the presentation. So I will be circling back. So please type your questions into the chat and I will get to them. We're going to be covering a lot today. So again, if you have a pad or paper and want to take notes, that's all good. If not, that's cool too. You can just sit back and relax. Okay. So to start out, a diet. When you see the word diet, what comes up? Now, feel free to write in the chat box, if you're feeling up to it, what you think of when you hear the word diet or when you see the word diet. You can also go, if anyone feels like going off mute and just sharing a couple words, that's fine too. All right, we have some coming in. A way of eating, unrealistic and unhealthy standards, unsustainable, to lose weight. All right. Some kind of restriction on eating, etc., less salt, etc. Sure. All of these are right. There is no wrong answer to this question. Deprivation. All right. So I'm gathering that when we see diet, it really is, we're really thinking about diet as a restriction, as diet as something where we are painful. Diets can be painful, yes. When you're restricting food, it's painful sometimes. So this restrictive definition of diet. So if we zoom out a little bit, there are many definitions of the word diet. So when we think of plant-based diet, a diet can be defined as zooming out more of the food that a person, animal, or community habitually eats. Okay. We can also see it more of the medical model, which I think a lot of you are naming here. So specific intake of nutrition either to support, either to lose weight or for medical reasons. Now, that has more of a restrictive connotation to it, like we're eliminating something that we want that we can't have. Now, I prefer the definition of diet as really simple, just bare bones. Diet is, taking away the medical restrictive model, a diet is what you eat, what you put in your body, what you put in your mouth, plain and simple. So when we're talking about plant-based diet, that is the definition of diet that we are referring to in this presentation. We're not talking about restriction. We are talking about what we eat. So another way of saying that you may hear is style of eating or pattern of eating, all referring to the general definition of diet. Now, the reason I ask this is, again, what defines your diet? So what defines what you put in your body? What do you consider? Now, feel free again to write in the chat things that define how you eat. Or again, if you want to take yourself off mute and say a few words, feel free. It could be, I have some suggestions, but I don't want to reveal them yet because I want to hear from some people. It's okay if you're feeling shy. I understand. People are getting off work. Okay, Adrian says vegan, no animal products. So that's how you define your diet. Dinky, healthy habits of eating. Akila, I am vegetarian. Debbie, a mix of veggies, fruits, carbs, animals, lean proteins, and greens. So this is what defines your diet. So this is the type of food you're eating. So eating more vegetables. Awesome. Feel free to keep sharing. So what defines your diet? It could be access. So what do you have access to? That defines what food you eat. Location. So for people in the Bay Area, we may have more access to organic, reasonably priced foods than someone who lives in an area where that isn't as accessible. Maybe they don't live near a grocery store. Location, maybe you live on a coast, you have more access to sustainable seafood than someone who lives inland. Or maybe you live on a farm and you have access to fresh eggs. That's amazing. Tradition, what did you grow up eating? What does your culture traditionally eat? What do you just, what do you like to do? Craving, what do you want at any time, at any given moment? Your affinity, likes and dislikes. I love arugula. I don't like kale that much. That's true. I'm not a big fan of kale. I'll eat it, but I don't like it. Wellness. So mind, body, spirit, how we eat, maybe spirituality, maybe spiritual wellness, that can define how we eat. Our health considerations. So our health, maybe you have an allergy where you're celiac, you can't have gluten. Maybe you have a heart condition. And so there are certain foods that you try to eat over others. And then the last one, values. So what do you value? Maybe you value community. Maybe you value supporting your local farmers market to support local agriculture. So that's going to define what you eat and how you eat. Maybe you value respecting animals. So that's going to define how you eat. You value the environment, supporting the environment. So all of these different ways, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just some of the big hitters of how we define how we eat. And at any given time in life, these definitions, or how we define how we eat, is going to shift over time, where maybe at one point in our life, we're going to put more weight on our health. Maybe in another point in our life, we're going to put more weight on what we have access to, or maybe more what our values and how they shift and change over time. So it allows for flexibility, okay? And I want you to keep in mind as we go through this presentation, what are, more than the food that you're choosing, why are you choosing that food? What defines your choices around your food? It's going to look different for everyone because you are an individual. So what is plant-based eating? So plant-based eating is a plant-forward eating pattern. So you are eating proportionately more plant-based foods than you are animal-based foods. So one myth right here, we're going to bust. Mel said it in the beginning. Plant-based eating is not 100% plants. It allows the freedom to eat some animals to eat animal-based products to support maybe your health, to support your community, to support all these definitions of how we eat. So it's less restrictive. So just to break down what plant-based diets really are. So there's an umbrella, okay? So veganism, vegetarianism, they're within the umbrella of a plant-based diet, okay? So veganism is plant-based, but plant-based isn't veganism, if that makes sense. So veganism, you're just eating plants, 100% plants. Vegetarian, eggs and dairy. Pescatarian, you're including all that plus fish. And then flexitarian, you occasionally eat meat, poultry, and seafood. So this is the big question we get all the time. So in a plant-based diet, you are eating plants, but how much plants? I gotta say, you're not gonna like this answer. It really depends. Everyone is an individual, so the amount of plants, that plant to animal ratio, animal product ratio, is gonna change. Some people, they function with just one serving of fish a month, and that's good. Others, plant-based eating looks like, they have a little serving of protein, maybe a day or maybe once a week. So it really varies, and there's no strict guideline. There's no strict rule to follow when it comes to plant-based eating or a plant-based diet. And that's why I, as a non-diet dietitian, love recommending plant-based eating, because it allows for the freedom to flow of what you want and what your body needs at any given time. So what's more important than the amount of plants is the quality of the plants and the quality of the diet that you're eating. So not all plant-based diets are created equal. It's really about quality of your food. So if we use the vegan example, which is within the umbrella of plant-based diet, veganism, they're eating 100% plants. So you could be a vegan who is eating well-sourced, organic, beautiful, farm fresh from your backyard plants every day. Or you could also be a vegan and eat Doritos breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The difference between these two, it could be what you have access to. It could be what you could afford. It could be what you're craving at any time. I am not someone who supports eating Doritos for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. But we got to say that is technically a vegan diet, which is within the plant-based model. So when you are eating plant-based, what you really want to focus on is just making sure that you can include colorful fruits and vegetables, varied sources of legumes and grains, healthy fat, quality fat, and well-sourced protein sources from mainly plants, but also including animal-based products as it suits you and your needs. So there are some health considerations in considering how you're going to approach a plant-based eating style. So there's two columns here. So the first column represents where there is a large body of clinically significant research that supports that eating a plant-based diet will support these health conditions. So heart health, kidney disease, cancer prevention, and cognitive decline, so Alzheimer's. Now, if you have any sort of heart condition, it's probably been recommended to you by your primary care provider to follow a plant-based diet, because the research shows that by eating more plants that are higher in phytonutrients, higher nutrient density, will reduce your risk for heart disease and provide a healthy heart. Now, notice I said reduce your intake of animal proteins, not completely eliminate, because there are some animal foods that can support these conditions as well. So it's not about complete elimination in some cases for some individuals, okay? Everyone is different. That's an important thing to remember. Now, the second column here, blood sugar regulation, mood support, gut health, the environment. This list is where, yes, plant-based eating can be supportive, but it really is more individual and it really is more subjective on you. So For example, mood support. Mel mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, supporting mental health and wellness. Yes, plant-based eating can be wonderful. However, there are some nutrients that the body really loves getting from animal sources that are only found in animal sources. And I will be going over those nutrients in the next slide. So just hold on. And same with gut health. So there are some chronic digestive conditions that people don't do well eating just plants. For example, if you have colitis or Crohn's, plants can sometimes be hard to digest, and having something soothing like a bone broth is going to be reparative and restorative to your digestive lining, and is going to provide comfort if that is your health consideration. Okay. But again, eating a variety of plants also supports gut health because it supports a healthy microbiome. So it goes both. So we need a little bit of both. And then the last health consideration, the environment. So I think in my practice, the biggest reason I see when clients approach me for wanting to move towards a plant-based eating style is based on environmental concerns, the health of their environment. They want to reduce their environmental impact. Now, I'm not going to get into the statistics of this because there's an abundance of research, and it's changing and growing, and there's this amount of research that is supporting that by reducing our intake of meat, of conventional factory farmed animal protein, will reduce our environmental impact. And this is true. However, there is a similar body of research that says that supporting small scale farms and raising small scale animals can provide for a healthy ecosystem and can be regenerative to the environment and regenerative to the soil. And often these practices are based on indigenous knowledge and indigenous tradition. And it is important that we recognize that and that we respect that and bring that into the conversation in talking about environmental health and environmental wellness. So it is about reducing our intake of conventional factory farmed meats. I mean, if you think about the deforestation that is occurring in the Amazon and Brazil to produce meat, yes, not good. But if we're also considering the health of small scale farms, for example, in Northern California, that are raising cattle for soil regeneration, that is beneficial. So we have to see both sides of it, okay? But it is important to consider the environment and consider your values when considering approaching a plant-based diet and reducing your meat consumption. So I bring this up to just remind you that everyone is coming to plant-based eating for a different reason. And remember that everyone is different. And so make this decision for yourself and try not to make this decision for other people. All right, so nutrient considerations. Okay, so here we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of there are certain nutrients from animal sources that are hard or you just can't get from plant-based sources. So we're going to go through the list. I'm going to try and not get too sciencey with it. But again, if you have any questions, just please write them in the chat. All right, so the first kind of category is vitamins and minerals. So vitamins and minerals, they provide color to plants, and they are essential for immune health and vitality. We need lots of essential vitamins and minerals. And there are some vitamins and minerals that we really can only get through, adequately get through animal sources. So for example, if you, for B vitamins, B12, you really can only adequately get through animal protein unless you are supplementing. Now, not everyone can afford supplements, not everyone has access to supplements, and not everyone can tolerate supplements. So if you fall into any of those categories, it may be beneficial to you to introduce either animal-based sources of B12, which is in just animal products, animal protein, or consider a fortified food or like nutritional yeast, which has B12 in it to get your B12. Now, this is important for anyone who has any sort of mood imbalance where B12 plays a big impact, any digestive condition where your B12 production and absorption may be compromised, or if you have any sort of nervous system condition, fibromyalgia, or any anxiety, B12 is going to be a crucial mineral. Yes, thank you, MTHFR, the gene. If you have an MTHR genetic, I don't want to say mutation, but genetic SNP, then that's going to be an important nutrient for you to get as well. So if you fall in any of those categories, you want to pay attention to your B12 consumption. Now, fat soluble vitamins. So vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E. We're going to focus on vitamin A right now. So there is a common kind of another misconception that beta carotene, which is the plant-based form of vitamin A, it's actually not vitamin A, it's different. Beta carotene is a precursor to vitamin A, which happens in the body. So we either eat true vitamin A from an animal source, or we eat beta carotene and our body converts that into vitamin A in the body. So I'm happy that Mel actually brought up genetics, because that's where natural flow to the conversation. Some people are genetically predispositioned to not convert beta carotene to vitamin A efficiently in the body. Okay, so not everyone can do that conversion efficiently. Okay, you can find that out through genetic testing. That's another conversation. If we have time at the end, I would love to talk more about that, but for the sake of time, I'm going to keep flowing. So if you have any sort of compromised immune system, if you have an autoimmune condition, if you are focused on liver health, your vitamin A consumption may be of importance to you. So this is another area where you would want to get sources of true vitamin A from animal sources, which is going to come from animal fat and animal protein, grass-fed meat, butter, cheese, dairy, yogurt, all good, great sources of vitamin A. Cottage cheese, all good. Again, with iron, another essential mineral, can be lacking in plant-based foods. The plant-based version is non-heme, the animal version is heme. Again, it's that conversion in the body. We convert non-heme to the usable heme version. So if you have low energy, if you run anemic, if you are pregnant, you may want to consider including some animal-based protein sources if you feel comfortable doing that and if it aligns with your value system. You can, of course, take a supplement, but again, what I said about supplementation, some people don't handle iron supplements well. So it's just about finding out what works for you when we consider what defines your diet, okay? And then the last one, choline. So choline is one of these essential nutrients for mental health and wellness, and it's really hard to get through plant-based sources. One of the best sources of choline is egg yolks. So I want to tell you a little story real quick about a client of mine who he has bipolar, and he came to me wanting to manage his bipolar, and he was interested in supporting his health and wellness and his overall well-being. And we were doing a bunch of things, and he was supplementing, but he wasn't handling the supplements well. And he came to the conclusion that maybe he's been a vegan his whole life, grew up being vegan. He said, I'm not sure that this is working for me anymore. I want to try introducing eggs so we can get those B vitamins and the choline and these essential nutrients and see if this helps. So he was able to, and the environment was his main reason for wanting to be vegan. He wanted, and supporting animals. He wanted to make sure that it was a healthy situation, it was sustainable, he was causing less harm. This is important to him. And we were able to connect. He was able to connect with one of his long-term friends who had chickens in their backyard. So he was able to get locally, raised, sustainably raised, humanely raised eggs from his friend. He reconnected from his friend. And after a couple months of eating the eggs and getting that natural source of choline and the vitamins and the B vitamins, his health started to take an upturn and he did notice a shift. Now I know correlation doesn't equal causation, but in this in in this case, he attributed it to the eggs. So I'm going to trust him in saying this. So I just want to tell you this story that, again, it is about aligning all of these factors, your values, your access, in doing what is right for you to support your health and well-being at any time. Okay. And that can change over time. So it's important to allow that flexibility. So some other nutrients. I just want to read this comment from Mel because it pertains. She said, over the past two, she's also had clients who have had the same issues and similar outcomes when introducing eggs. So introducing those animal-based sources of choline and B vitamins. Okay. So if mental health is a concern of yours, this could be something that you consider in how you define your diet. Now, other considerations. So omega-3s, all the rage right now. I feel like anywhere you turn any magazine about nutrition, it's talking about omega-3s, good for anti-inflammation. True, very true. Omega-3s are amazing. Now there's three main forms of omega-3s, EPA, ALA, and DHA. So EPA and ALA, excuse me, they are plant-based forms of omega-3s. And then what happens is our body, when we eat them, same, we eat the plant-based form and our body does the work for us of converting that into the usable bioavailable form, the form that our body likes, into DHA. So DHA is the animal-based form. Again, going back to genetics, some people are genetically predispositioned to not do that conversion efficiently, or they have a health condition like poor digestion or a chronic digestive condition that does impact their ability to absorb omega-3s and do that conversion. So if you have any sort of chronic digestive function or any sort of condition that is tied to inflammation, like an autoimmune condition, then that may be a situation, again, where you want to turn to an animal-based omega-3 source, DHA, also if you're pregnant. They do make DHA supplements out of algae, so that is also an option if you are vegan and want to continue to align with veganism. I respect that. So there are supplements out there where you can get supported through that. Okay, I just want you to know all of your options. If you have any questions about supplementation for you as an individual, you can always reach out after the workshop. I'm happy to talk with you individually about it. This one. Oh, this one. So protein, there are the last nutrient. So protein at its most basic form is amino acids. And amino acids are the building blocks to so many functions in our body for muscle growth and repair, for injury, for our immune system, for healthy hair, skin, and nails, and also neurotransmitters, so mental health. And there are 9 essential amino acids. Now, this ties into the definition of complete versus incomplete protein, which you may have heard of prior to this workshop. So a complete protein has all 9 essential amino acids, and that is coming from an animal source. Now, there are some plants like quinoa that have all 9 essential amino acids and are complete, but there are few. So just think of complete proteins as animal sources of protein. So chicken, land animals, fish, and dairy. Those are all complete proteins. Incomplete proteins are going to be plant-based sources of protein like legumes, grains, rice, listed here. So these are all examples of plant-based protein. So protein is important. We want to make sure we're getting enough, like I said, to support all these enzymatic functions and support overall health and well-being. If you're low protein, you may notice that you have slower recovery, slower repair. You may have slow digestion. It also may impact your energy levels. So take all this into consideration if you feel like you're not getting enough protein. So another myth we're going to bust right now is um, that you have to combine certain incomplete vegetable proteins in order to make it complete at that meal. So if we look at traditional styles of eating, you'll often see rice and beans as a combination, or corn and beans, or lentils and rice. So these are two incomplete proteins coming together to make a complete amino acid profile. Now, you do not need, it was previously thought that you needed to eat, these two complements at the same time in order for your body to recognize it as a complete protein. That has now been disproven. You could have oatmeal in the morning and you could have bean soup in the afternoon, and your body will do the work for you to combine them together to make it a complete protein. Again, what we're talking about here is less rules and less restriction for you to eat what you want, when you want. Okay. So these are just some examples, though, of combinations of making a complete protein. So if you are working to build upon your protein sources, it can be good knowledge to have on how to build on proteins. For example, if you do have that bowl of oatmeal, if we wanted to load it up, we could do maybe some chia seeds on top, maybe some nut butter or seed butter, like tahini or pumpkin seed butter or almond butter, and then maybe some fruit on top of there. Call it a day. Awesome. Now I listed protein powders here as well because I just wanted to talk about them before I move on. Plant-based protein powders, they're wonderful. Again, when you are considering a plant-based protein, it's best to have a variety of sources. So you're not just sticking to brown rice or pea or hemp, and there's so many out there that you do get a variety. Okay. Now, the reason for that is two. One, you do want that complete amino acid profile. Another thing is you do want to consider the environment. We don't want to put too much strain on the production and promotion of one food. And that's another reason why we like variety. When we eat a variety of foods, it diversifies the economy, it diversifies agriculture. So it's good to eat a variety of foods for your health and the health of the environment if that's one of your values. Okay. So as far as also a little side note on protein powders, I'm sure we do have some vegans and vegetarians that have already been trying protein powders for years, and you notice some of them have different textures. So play around and find out what works for you. Plant-based protein powders, they can be a little chalky, so putting them in smoothies and blending them up can be a good way to get in that protein powder. They're not something that sometimes you can just put in like a cup of coffee, like you can do animal-based gelatin or collagen or something like that. So just side note. All right. So if you are here to eat more plants, and that is the goal, how can we do that? How do you strategize getting more plants into your life? So these are not rules; these are suggestions. So you try filling up half your plate with plants. You can make that a goal. And also, you can make meat a supporting role instead of the main star. So everyone holds up their hand like that. You look at your hand and your palm. Your palm. That's about the size of what should be I say should loosely because that can change. Based on your body composition, this is proportionate to the amount of the size of the protein source of chicken, beef, or fish that you should be eating, just the palm. Okay. Good rule of thumb. So making meat a condiment rather than the main event can kind of help you transition to more of a plant-based diet. And then fat choices. Consider your fat sources. So if you are only using butter or tallow or lard in your cooking, that's great. Again, we're talking about those fat soluble vitamins, which are found in those fats, and they are restorative and great for the immune system. However, if you want to diversify them and also eat those animal fats and eat maybe ghee, which is clarified butter, it's not plant-based, but it is easier to digest, or coconut oil or olive oil or even avocado or grapeseed oil in your cooking, that can help diversify and include more plants. Okay. You could try going meatless for a meal or two. Some people, they do meatless Mondays if you're just starting out, and you can build up to it. Maybe even just do meatless lunches. Just try it out. Everyone is going to come in starting at a different point. So do what works for you and your family. You don't have to jump into it all at once. You can work up to it at your comfort and your own pace. And then greens. So color, we're talking about color. Good way to eat more plants is focus on color. If it's overwhelming to eat the rainbow at every meal, that can overwhelm me sometimes. Just pick one color, pick your favorite color, or just start out with green. I'm going to try and add more green to my plate. What could I do to get more green? You could add more herbs. Herbs count, okay? It counts for me. You could add maybe a garnish, like some green onion, that counts. Or just have a side, maybe make a goal to have like a side salad or a side of sauteed greens with every meal, okay? And you could cook them with some fat, make sure so it makes the nutrients more absorbable, all good. I see, Mary, I see your message. I'm gonna answer it now. Someone gave me some ghee, but I'm not sure what to do with it. How is ghee used? So ghee is clarified butter, which means that the protein, the casein, has been removed. So casein is like the white, if you melt butter and the white kind of floaters that float up, that's the casein. So that's removed, and then you're just left with the gold liquid, that's ghee. So it's eaten in traditional Ayurvedic diets. The casein is a protein, and it's typically what can be agitating to some people, and so that's why it's removed. It makes the butter, the ghee itself, that fat, easier to digest. So you can use it as you would butter. Really great if you're roasting like a chicken, using that, or if you're roasting vegetables, you can use ghee on toast, on oatmeal. Melted in tea or coffee, it can be good too. So yeah, good question. Last recommendations, just snack on plants. So cut up some vegetables, keep them in your fridge. If you don't have time to prep vegetables, buy pre-cut, whatever you got to do to make it work for you. Okay, frozen too, all good. Whatever works for your family. So I just have some quick veggie swaps. Jackfruit for pulled pork, chickpea salad instead of tuna salad, coconut bacon. You could use liquid smoke and maybe paprika to make bacon bits. If you want a poke bowl, roasted beets. I've done that a few times for clients. Awesome. And just some meal ideas just to get some inspiration flowing for breakfast: and tofu scramble with nutritional yeast, or rethink breakfast and go savory with a veggie soup or a rice porridge, or even a sweet potato bowl. Really nourishing, really hearty, really comforting, and it's plants are the center and the star. Some lunch and dinner ideas: quick meals, sheet pan roasts, lots of veggies, throw them in the oven, make a grain, maybe make a sauce, there you go. Stir fry in the pan, quick and easy dinner, all good. Veggie burgers, you can use legumes for the burger and add in, other plants. There's a recipe in the handout provided to you for the workshop for beet burgers. It's gonna be good. Soups, stews, and curries, tofu curries, chickpea curries, lots of vegetables. And then lentil and chickpea pasta. I threw that in one because that's one of my go-to favorites for getting more protein in my plant-based eating and to get more variety. Nothing wrong with wheat pasta in general, unless you are intolerant to wheat or celiac or show signs of inflammation from wheat. I don't want to demonize wheat, but it is good to have variety. And lentils and chickpeas, all these pasta varieties that are out there now, they're higher in protein than wheat pasta. So if you are going plant-based or vegan and you're trying to get your protein up, switching to lentil chickpea pastas can be a good way to do that. So what I'm going to demo for you now, where are we at? 15 minutes, cool. I'm actually going to demo for you guys one of my favorite quick plant-based meals, which is a pea pesto. And this recipe is in the handout that is provided for you. I'm going to do a little variation on it today. Um, I love this quote by Barbara Kingsolver. She wrote Animal Vegetable Miracle, which is a wonderful book. It's called Cooking. Cooking is 80% confidence, a skill best acquired starting from when the apron strings wrap around you twice. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get cooking. So I am actually going to stop sharing. Ruby asked, I did not get the handout. Is there a link? It will be sent out, I think, but maybe Mel can speak to that at the end, but you all will have access to it. All right, so I am going to pop back to my kitchen. Welcome to my kitchen. We are going to make a pea pesto loaded with plants, loaded with protein. The reason why I love this recipe is it makes 2 cups. So you could make 1 cup and have it for a meal, and then you could either freeze the other cup, or you could use it as a dip with veggies throughout the week. You could put it in wraps. You could do anything you want with it. It's so delicious, but I love this as a topping for my chickpea pasta or just as a dip, like I said. Okay, so we're gonna get going. Again, this recipe is gonna be provided for you. So first, basil. I count basil as a green. This is where we're talking about where herbs can be greens. It smells so good. This is actually Thai basil because that's what I had. So remember that you can use whatever you want. It'll probably taste delicious. I saw one of my favorite Italian chefs today was cooking with basil, and he said you just got to get up all in the basil and just be one with the basil. And I thought that was funny because that's what I'm going to be doing with you all today is getting up all in the basil. It smells so good. So this is about a cup or so of basil. I just picked the leaves. And then when I'm making pesto, I like to add a green to my pesto with the herb. So sometimes it's spinach, sometimes it's kale, but I'm actually using, this is actually carrot tops. So because I had a big bunch of carrots and I wanted to reduce waste, and carrot tops are actually edible. They're like a green and they're high in nutrients, high in phytonutrients. So one trick to eating carrot tops and incorporating them into your cooking is to blanch them. And you can do this with all the greens that you're adding to a pesto. And blanching is the process of doing a quick dunk with the green or vegetable in slightly boiling water and then immediately dunking it in an ice bath. And what that does is it cooks it so it's a little bit easier to digest, but also the dunking in the cold water shocks the green, and so it keeps that vibrant color. So if you're going to be eating this throughout the week, it's going to maintain that green. So you can also do it with your basil if you want. You can do a quick dunk in the water and then a cold plunge with your basil too. And that's kind of a trick to keep that vibrant green color. So just a bunch, about a cup. I'm just going to, this is already blanched. I'm just going to cut it. I'm using a food processor. You can use a mortar and pestle if you want. You could use a Vitamix. You could use any blender. It's all good, whatever works, whatever you have in your kitchen. All right, next ingredient is peas. Peas. High in protein. I'm using frozen peas. You can use fresh peas. They're defrosted. They're going to add protein. They're going to add fiber. They're going to add sweetness. They're going to add deliciousness. So I love putting peas in pesto because it gives it the sweetness and adds some protein. So a cup of peas. And then the next ingredient in the recipe is hemp seeds. So hemp seeds are a great source of plant-based omega-3s. High in omega-3s, so if you are 100% plant-based, hemp seeds are high up there on the omega-3s list. They're wonderful. They have a nice nutty flavor. I unfortunately went to the store earlier and they were out of hemp seeds. So I'm doing a substitution with pistachios. So with this recipe, you can use any nut and seed you have. You could do walnuts, you could do almonds, you could do, again, I have pistachios. You can really do whatever you want. But hemp seeds, if you have them, give them a try because they really are wonderful in this recipe. But again, allowing for flexibility. So this is about a half cup of whatever nut you're using. And then nutritional yeast. So we're going to do 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. So the nutritional yeast is going to replace the Parmesan in a pesto. So nutritional yeast is high in B vitamins, specifically high in B12. So if you are a vegan or vegetarian, you probably already know about nutritional yeast, nicknamed Nooch. High in B12, great source of B12. So if you're not one that wants to supplement, this is going to be your best friend. So it has a nice cheesy taste and cheesy quality. So again, this is going to replace the Parmesan. I'm just going to do 2 tablespoons. Give it a nice umami. If you want to add more or less, you can. Remember, you can make any recipe your own. Cool. Next, we are going to do zest and juice of 1 lemon. So I love lemons. Lemons they're my logo, so I love lemons. They're so good for you. And the zest is actually amazing for digestion. The bitterness of the zest helps us break down food, specifically plant foods, which can be a little bit harder on the system to digest. And it's good for the immune system, so the zest. So also provides a little zing in the pesto, a little brightness, livens it up. The peas and the basil make the pesto kind of sweet. So adding a bit of lemon juice kind of balances out. All right, we're gonna do a quick. These smell so good. We're at the tail end of lemon season, and I'm so sad about that if you live in California. But I am going to share with you, I just found out that I'm going to get a lemon tree tomorrow, so I am stoked about that. Have fresh lemons. All right, so lemons are in there, and then the next thing we're adding, garlic. So again, garlic. Garlic goes in a pesto, but if you have an aversion to garlic or it's not your friend, you could do shallot here. That's an option, or you could just omit it altogether, or you could do like green onion could be good. So you don't have to do garlic, but if you want to stick to, this is a very non-traditional pesto, but if you want some tradition, add some garlic. And I'm adding 4 cloves. The recipe calls for 3. I love garlic. So crush, chop it up, go in there, yum. And then the next ingredient is going to be olive oil. We're using quite a bit of olive oil. It calls for a cup. I'm eyeballing it because I could measure it out. And we are actually going to blend it. Notice I haven't added my salt and pepper yet because I'm going to do that at the end after I taste. Right, it might get loud, I'm sorry. And as this goes, I'm going to slowly pour in the olive oil so it immerses together. All right. Don't be skimpy with your olive oil too. Olive oil is amazing. That is amazing for you. It helps with the integrity of our cells. It helps with immune function. It's good for heart health. Olive oil is your friend, so you don't need to skimp on olive oil. Last thing, and I'm just going to grab a spoon, and then we can taste it. And we'll add our salt and our pepper. It's so good. It's so good. I can't wait for you guys to make this. I'm going to add a little chili flake because I want some heat. And then about a teaspoon of salt. I eyeball it. You can measure it. And then I like a lot of pepper. So about a half teaspoon to a teaspoon of pepper. It's written in the recipe. If you want to thin it out with water, you can. Mine has a good consistency. I'll show you when I'm done. Just going to blend that up one more time. done. We just made pesto. I made a mess, but we have pesto. I'm going to show you. Yum, yum, yum. So what you do is put this over some cooked pasta. You can even double up on your veggies and add some roasted veggies to the mix. You could add roasted mushrooms, maybe some zucchini, maybe some asparagus is in season right now, and make a pea pesto pasta, high in protein, high in phytonutrients, 100% plant-based. But if you did want to add a little chicken or fish, that could also be included in plant-based as well, because this is a big plant meal. So, and that's it. We're turning it over to Q&A. How's everyone doing? Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to look back. Ruby had a question that Mel answered. I have not used nutritional yeast. Is it okay for high blood pressure? Yes. What did Mel say? Nutritional yeast can be your go-to swap salt. That's very true. Thanks for that point, Mel. You're so spot on. It definitely can. Nutritional yeast has 0 sodium, but it does have this natural umami flavor that can add a nice taste and that satiety to your meals. So nutritional yeast goes really well on things that you would put like a cheddar cheese on. So it goes well on popcorn. It goes well on broccoli. It's a chef's like secret weapon. They'll often put it into soups and stews to pump up the umami flavor in gravies. So if you are a vegan and you're making like a mushroom gravy, adding a little nutritional yeast will like bump it up. So all good. And then I was told to eat more tofu. What is a good way to start cooking with it? That's a great question. So with tofu, I love kind of experimenting, but if you're new to tofu, I would start with extra firm tofu, and because that has the meatiest consistency. And what you want to do is, I'm going to give you a quick tofu tutorial. If you have a kitchen towel, or you can use paper towels, and if you slice it, you want to get out all the excess water in the tofu before you cook it. Some people will like put it on a pressurized to get the water out, like they'll put it on a plate and then put a heavy object on top of it to weigh it down so the water comes out. And then you can cook it up, either cut it up into cubes, or you can cook it in little fillets and season it in some oil, or you can eat it just steamed in soups and stuff, and it's delicious. But have fun with tofu. It's a good one, especially in curries, or, you know, fried tofu tacos. You could make like barbecue tofu is good. Hope that answers your question. I use a tofu press. Yes, an actual, that is a thing. Tofu press are a thing. Any other questions?
I just wanted to jump in and let everybody know you will receive the thank you email, and this will have, and I'm looking at it right now, it's absolutely gorgeous. It is multiple fully plant-based recipes, very easy to do, as well as Megan has added the a little bit of a takeaway from her slides. I know somebody was asking about slides, but there's a chart for protein. There's a reminder about your B vitamins and omegas and magnesium and iron. So if for some reason when you signed up through Eventbrite, if you said, no, I do not want to get promotional materials, you may not receive this or our thank you email. So if you've never received a thank you email, it's because you did not agree to receive it from us. In that case, send an email to melissa@banyanwomen.org and I will get you taken care of. Megan, I just really want to say thank you. This is really an excellent, well-rounded class. It really shared all the things around the subject. And beyond that, I really want to recognize that I love this community because we have vegans, vegetarians, we have meat eaters, and there is no shade, full support. Everybody's here to learn and grow. And I think that that is one of the most beautiful things about this community, because that does not always happen when people start talking about ways of eating. So kudos to you guys for being such an amazing group of community members. And kudos to you, Megan, for leading us through that. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your evening. Not sure if I allowed notifications. Please email. Well, sweetie, you'll have to email me. So melissa@banyanwomen.org. All right, everyone. Please take care. Have a beautiful night.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're
Have a good
welcome.
night.
Thank you.
Hmm.
You.
Yay.